Welcome back to another New York Giants video, and today I'm super excited to announce that the Giants have officially hired their next GM, and it is Joe Schoen, formerly now of the Buffalo Bills. He was their assistant GM. I've made videos listing my top 5 GM candidates. He was my top candidate this year. I honestly still can't believe we've hired him. I know he was the favorite, but it just feels like it's kind of like a relief, a huge burden off my shoulders now that we've finally hired our next GM. I think this is the first step in actually becoming a contending team in the NFL, actually competing. It's not going to happen overnight, but it started with firing Joe Judge and Dave Gettleman. Those are gone. We've flipped that chapter in the book. It's time to move on. But this is like the first ray of hope that we've gotten in a long time. This guy's he's just excellent. Everywhere you look, from any source, even from Bill Parcells, all you hear is praise and praise. So it's really exciting to see that. I think this guy's gonna know what he's doing. He knows how to rebuild a team. He's done it before. Obviously not at the top at GM, but he was their GM, Brandon Beane's right-hand man in Buffalo. They were also together in Carolina. But, in that 7-year gap, despite that 7-year gap, Brandon Beane was still, the first guy he brought to Buffalo with him was Joe Schoen. So that says a lot about Joe Schoen and his talent he has. Also, to mention that this is not a process that's going to happen overnight. As we know, the last decade we've been trying to rebuild this New York Giants team, or at least trying to make it competitive, and it just hasn't. We made the playoff one year, and that's because we spent big in free agency. And that's not the way we want to build a team, especially a young team. You want to build through the draft. You want to bring in guys on less expensive contracts. And if you just bombard your team with high players that are just making so much money, you're not going to be able to build the foundation the right way. And that's something we've been lacking. And I think it starts with the offensive line. That's the foundation we need. Joe Judge was talking about a foundation that that there was a foundation being built, and there just wasn't. That was just coach speak, and I just want to move on from Joe Judge at this point. Sorry to bring him up over and over again, but there just wasn't a foundation built. And the foundation is the offensive line, the defensive line. It all starts in the trenches, but it felt like they knew that, but they just weren't able to build on that, which is really sad. And that's what cost them their jobs ultimately. But more on Joe Schoen and the process, that it doesn't happen overnight. Before Joe Schoen and Brandon Beane got to Buffalo, they were under Rex Ryan and Anthony Lynn for like a year. I think Anthony Lynn took over for like a game, or I think he was the intern. 2015, 8-8. 2016, 7-9. So Buffalo, it's not like they were a horrible team. They're, a pretty average team there with Tyrod Taylor and everything with that. But, it just shows that with the right guys, you can flip it around, because in 2017, they were 6-10. That was the first year they took over that regime. And then 2018, they had their wins weren't there. It's mostly because they drafted a rookie quarterback in Josh Allen. So they were 6-10. They won 3 less games than they did the year before, but with the rookie quarterback, you're bound to struggle. And then a huge leap in 2019 at 10-6 with Josh Allen. That second year leap, Josh Allen still wasn't perfect, but with the addition of Brian Daboll, they were still working with him. The accuracy problems were getting corrected. The decision making on the field was also getting corrected. So there was a lot of things that they were working on, and I think they knew what they were doing, especially with Josh Allen, because they built. Josh Allen could not have asked for a better situation. They come in, they give him Stephon Diggs, they build a decent offensive line around him, they give him a top 15, top 10 defense in the league. So it's and a great play caller in Brian Daboll, so it felt like Josh Allen had everything fall in place for him. Obviously, not to take anything away from him, but it says a lot about the Buffalo Bills and how they were able to build that team under Brandon Beane and Joe Schoen. So that's that. And then this year they were 11-6. They're still in the playoffs. Last week they beat the New England Patriots. This week they're playing the Kansas City Chiefs. They lost to them last year, but This is, like a revenge. Josh Allen was still young. He's still young, but he's more matured. He's more experienced. So let's see if they could take down the Kansas City Chiefs. This guy, Joe Schoen, he was probably the best candidate out there this year. Him and Adam Peters. I wanted Joe Schoen, but I think ultimately Joe Schoen was the best candidate because he's the first guy to get hired. A part of that can be because he has connections to the Giants in a way. We were thinking that John Mara was going to go completely out of the Giants, connections, but that kind of wasn't the case. But Joe Schoen he definitely has a completely different philosophy. So that's good to see. He's connected to Dave Gettleman. They worked together in Carolina, but Joe Schoen was there before Gettleman even got there. And then, he also has a Bill Parcells connection where Bill Parcells brought him to Miami. So, there is a little bit of connections here and there, but nothing too major. And I think, those connections isn't really impacting the way he approaches things. He's not going to, he understands that why would he listen to someone else or someone else's philosophy when he's the guy in charge? Let him do things his own way. I think they are. John Mara is finally learning. He's definitely looking in a different direction. This year it's something that we haven't seen from John Mara at all. He's being patient. He's interviewing tons of guys. And it's a top guys too. Our last three, our finalists, Joe Schoen, Adam Peters, and Ryan Poles, all part of winning teams, winning cultures, and at the end of the day, that's the only culture that matters. So that's really amazing to see from John Mara. And I think hopefully he also applies that to the head coaching search, because if he doesn't and he handicaps the GM or he handicaps their possible candidates because of past history or whatever, then you're there's no point in having that thorough GM search. You want to complete the process you started and just go along with it. There's no point in falling back. It's going to be a rebuild for sure. It's going to take some time, but you just want to do things the right way. You don't want to have regrets like John Mara is probably having now from 2018. They handicapped Dave Gettleman. They tried to win with Eli Manning and that didn't work. We all know that we should have started the rebuild in 2018, but miscalculations from John Mara and Dave Gettleman. But ultimately, I think we're headed in the right direction. Let's go. I just want to go over Joe Schoen's credentials real fast too. I've gone over them before, but with the new hiring, I think we should go over. There's probably something we could find within it. So he started his career off with the Carolina Panthers. Currently he's 42 years old, so he does have some experience. It's not like he was a former player in the NFL or in college, but I think he was a player. I'm not 100% sure. Oh yeah, he was. He was a quarterback, and he was a quarterback his freshman year, and then he switched to wide receiver during his sophomore year. So he does have that player mentality, but more of an executive, more of a GM. He's more of a scout. So he started with the Panthers from 2001 to 2007. He was a scouting assistant, then a combine scout, and then an area scout. He was with the Panthers there. Dave Gettleman was also there, and then he got called to the Miami Dolphins by Bill Parcells himself. He had a lot great things to say about him as well, which is really promising. So he started as a national scout from 2008 to 2012 with the Dolphins, then was assistant college director in 2013, and then director of player personnel from 2014 to 16. And then Brandon Breen called him to Buffalo because of their connection from the Carolina Panthers. And he was their assistant GM from 2017, from when they took over, to currently 2021. I think a trend we could see from here is that consistently he's being promoted. He's getting more put on his plate. So, which is, it's great. He's been handling so many responsibilities. Now he's given the task of GM. I think he won't have any problems adjusting to it or, adapting to new things or having more thing to handle because, he's done it before. He's pretty much been a GM in a way, but now there's more responsibility. Now he has the final say, which is something he hasn't had before. So I think he'll be all right. I think now we turn the page to the head coach search. There's been rumors as early as right now. Joe Schoen has his top two candidates, and that's Brian Flores and Brian Dable, who was his OC in Buffalo. They're still in the playoffs, so if you want to interview him, it's going to happen this week, because I think after a certain point you can't hire someone until the season is over, so unless they're eliminated or something. So after the conference, AFC conference, once that started, you can't bring in Dable, as the head coach. You're gonna have to wait till they lose, or their season is over, or they win the Super Bowl, or whatever happens with Buffalo. So we're gonna have to make a decision. Brian Flores is still out there. We have all our time. We have all the time we need with Flores. He's a New York native. He's from Brooklyn, so that I think that's why he's waiting. He's had interview offers from elsewhere. I think the Bears interviewed him or requested to. So did the Raiders. So he has some interest from other teams. So if we want him, we're gonna have to make a move on him. And I think we've already have made a move on him. The Giants requested the Miami Dolphins to interview him. Yeah, he is a free agent technically, but his contract, he still has a contract with Miami, so you still have to request Miami to interview him. I don't see why Miami would say no. So if they requested to interview him, I'm pretty sure he'll be coming in this weekend. So that's going to happen this weekend, and then Brian Dable will probably happen next week, and then any other guys you want to bring in will probably happen next week as well. So it seems like we figured out one thing. Now it's on to the second part of this offseason, which is another important part. I think Joe Schoen has Brian Dable at the top of his list. Brian Flores is probably up there, or he's number 2. So, these are some respectable guys. Honestly, I'm torn between Flores and Dable. I'm on it. It's really hard to pick one guy, but looking at the Giants currently and their past couple of years, I think an offensive-minded head coach would really help this team grow. And let's say DJ is the guy, and they can develop him. That would really be important for the future of our quarterback situation. We might not even have to spend a draft pick on a quarterback, or spend money through free agency, or send in trades for a guy like Russell Wilson. Even though trading for a guy like Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson would just raise the level of play for the Giants offensively and even defensively. So, there's a lot to look forward to the next coming weeks. But, have your eyes out for Brian Flores over the weekend. John Mara actually reached out to Brian Flores himself, and I think they both respect each other. So that's really great to see. So that's him formerly being part of the Belichick tree. I think that's drawing Mara there, even though he's had issues with their front office with Miami, which doesn't really affect us now. But that's definitely something you want to look into. But, I think we're headed in the right direction. Joe Schoen is really respected throughout the entire league. There's guys who are, the media is always shitting on the Giants for making this move or that move. But, this move, it seems like everyone's on board. Everyone loves the guy. Everyone loves the move. So the Giants made the right decision in hiring him, and hopefully we do the same thing with the head coach. So that's going to do it for this video. So until next time, go Giants.